So this edition of the York Curated Spotlight is going to be extremely special. And what we're going to do here at the York Curated Spotlight is just interview people in town who just bring something special to it, that really care about the community in York, which is so important. So today we're at the ViewPoint Hotel and Spa, which we're extremely grateful for them allowing us to be able to be here and to be able to see this gorgeous view, which really speaks for itself. So today's spotlight, somebody who's really special to the town and you're probably familiar with, is Matt Rosenberg. Matt, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you do here in York?
Yeah, I have a few different roles here in New York. My primary one is to be a school teacher at York High School. I've been there for 26 years. I teach English and media. But probably I'm more well known for taking care of the Nubble Lighthouse and being the Nubble Lighthouse keeper for the last 14 years.
14 years, that is incredible. And we're so grateful because the lighthouse brings so many people here in York, and then all of us York residents, we truly find it special. So how did you end up in the role of lighthouse keeper?
You know, it's kind of improbable, but also maybe like not that exciting. It was in the newspaper. It was advertised in the newspaper, which nobody gets a job in the newspaper anymore. And they were looking for potentially a high school or any public school teacher because the schedule works so well with this 3-season job where most of it's done in the summer.
Nice. And what drew you to that ad? I guess I can just imagine you sitting there flipping through the newspaper and you saw that. What made you make the call or put your application in?
I have to give all the credit to my wife in that one because she saw it and she said, you should really apply for this. And, you know, at that time, I think I was 36 and I was like, I'm kind of old for that job. And she said, no, I just put an application and see what happens. And, you know, they had over 65 applicants for the job.
Wow.
And they interviewed a ton of people and somehow I managed to get it, which I didn't expect, but she believed in me. So it worked out.
Well, that's amazing. That's really a cool story. Did you have any relation to the lighthouse prior? Did you enjoy going there?
You know, it's funny. I didn't come here a lot because local people don't come here a lot in the summer. They tend to come here more in the winter and fall. But I taught just, you know, a couple of miles away for a long, long time. And even going back and looking at pictures, like I came here and I had forgotten about this on the day I graduated from college. My parents brought us out, me and my now wife, out here, and we had a picnic right after our graduation ceremony out here. So I've got pictures from when I'm 22 years old, and you know, I look totally different, but in the suit that I graduated in. So it's kind of cool.
Oh, that's super cool. We'll have to see that photo.
I just dig it out, yeah.
Super cool. It's always interesting when you drive to a new community or anywhere. I remember coming to York for the first time when I was just a kid. I think I was probably 6 or 7 and going and bouncing on the Wiggly Bridge and then coming out here, never thinking that this would be where I was going to raise my family. I thought that would be over in South Berwick, but I love York, and now being here, it's really incredible. You never know where you're going to end up.
Yeah, it is an amazing place, and it's like we're lucky to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have that really special memory of taking that photo when you're visiting from college. What's something special now about the lighthouse that's really special to you?
You know, I think the thing that's most special to me about being at the lighthouse is the tradition of it. It was built in 1879, and there have been more than 30 keepers. Wow. And I know that, like, when I'm working on something at the lighthouse, I'm doing a project, I'm painting something, fixing something, I'm doing something that generations of other men have done before me. And we're just all working on the same big project as long as that lighthouse is there, which that's really powerful for me to be part of that tradition.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's one thing I've noticed when talking to you, Matt, is just the humility that you have about such a role. It's really inspiring to be able to hear that. What would you say is the draw? Because I've seen people propose there. I mean, we have over 500,000 visitors in a summer, maybe even more than that. You could correct that number.
I think we're well over that now, yeah.
Where do you think we are?
Well, when I started, it was 500,000, and that was 14 years ago. And we are seeing at least double the traffic in the park in an average week. So I'd say we're closer to 1 million.
That's incredible. Yeah. So it's really a special place for a lot of people. What do you think the draw is?
You know, I think Nubble Lighthouse has a really specific draw to people. I mean, it's a charming house. Like, it's looks like a Victorian era postcard. It's got like a little picket fence in the yard. But I think the thing that really draws people and gets them to come back for 20, 30, 40, 50 years is that you can't go there and touch it. So like you look at it and it's like a snow globe, like it's something beautiful, but you can't actually get to it. And I think that engages people's imagination. Once you see something for real and you experience it like in person, then it doesn't live in your imagination anymore. And this always lives in people's imagination.
That is an incredible answer. Wow.
Thanks.
It's amazing. So people really have a connection to it almost because it's something that they can't necessarily touch.
Yeah.
I get to look at it, and for generations and generations too.
Yeah, it's been, over 100 years, almost 150 now.
Almost 150 years. That's incredible. So that's kind of the draw to tourists, to visitors out of state. But let's talk about the community of York. Why is it such a symbol of the community here in York, would you say?
I think, I don't know, it's just ingrained in part of the psyche. It's been here for generations, and you can see it from Cape Nuttock. You can see it from Long Sands Beach. You can come out here and enjoy it at any point if you live here. It's like we live in somebody else's vacation. Yeah. But it's an icon of the town. It's on the town seal. And even back in 1987, when the Coast Guard was going to automated it and was going to leave it, they wanted to just board up the windows and let the light run. And the town stepped up and said, no, it's just too important for us. So I feel like even before the town actually had ownership of the lighthouse, it felt like they had ownership over that lighthouse, at least culturally.
That's incredible. So it's almost like they realized that the lighthouse has protected so many. Before with ships, and now they felt the need to protect it.
I think that's a pretty good description, yeah.
Wow. Do you feel as yourself going over there and the big crew that takes care of the lighthouse, do you feel like you're doing something for the town and the lighthouse at the same time?
Oh, absolutely. And the lighthouse belongs to the town, but it really belongs to everybody who loves it. And there are so many people who have such a strong relationship with this place.
Yeah.
That I feel like the number of people that I really do serve is enormous. It's thousands.
Wow, that's incredible. So let's take a day in the life. So what do you do as a lighthouse keeper? And throw in the little specific facts that we may not realize we know you row over, we see the boathouse, but something specific. Just what do you do as a lighthouse keeper?
Well, I look after the whole property, the grounds, and the buildings. I'm always identifying what needs are and then relaying that back to my managers who come up with the long-term maintenance plans. And then I do like the day-to-day maintenance stuff. I'm about to probably in a week or two start mowing that lawn, which will go hard right until after July 4th. It'll be mowed like at least once a week. So that's a constant task for me.
Wow.
And it takes 6.5 hours to mow it. So it's just a little push mower. In addition to that, I'm always creating a list of items that have to get completed in the course of a season. I think to this date, I've never finished that list.
Wow.
And stuff just carries over to the next year. I'm not going anywhere. I love this job and it's so much fun. And it's so meaningful to me that I could see myself doing this still for a long time. And so I know that if I didn't finish it in the fall, it'll be the first item on my list in the springtime.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, thank you for that. Now, people visit it all the time. Like it's rare to go out there, and York residents will know this. People visiting will know this. It's rare to go out to the park and not see a car. So it's always busy in the park.
Always.
So how do you feel once you've launched the boat and made it to the island?
Yeah, some days I feel relieved because it can be pretty rough. And when people are watching you row across, they're not rooting for you. So if it's bumpy out there, it's like, I don't know, everybody loves the crashes in NASCAR, the fights in hockey. I think people are secretly hoping that they're going to see me dump the boat, which has only happened twice.
It's happened before.
It's happened before. It only happens when it's really cold out, too. And it always happens right on this shore side here because it's so hard to launch and land in that location with the waves.
Interesting.
But once you get there, I mean, I'm the only person there. It's my space to care for. It's my space to be in. And it's been, I mean, it doesn't matter how busy it is in the park. Like you are all by yourself out there, even if there are a lot of people watching you. And I love the independence of this job. And I think that's just been the nature of taking care of a lighthouse for the entirety of the history of lighthouses. Is it's just, you're out there, you're identifying what needs to be done, and you're doing it and almost entirely by yourself.
Interesting. Amazing. Well, speaking of that, taking care of it, preserving it, how are you able to preserve the lighthouse, which keeps up with the historical part of it, but keeping it what it originally was while also adapting to new modern ways and tourism, I guess, just growing here in the seacoast?
Yeah, at the lighthouse, things are mostly as they were left in 1987. Like we've obviously done a lot of work on the exterior. The interior is a bit of a time capsule. But there's two things that I think make that happen. One is just the regular maintenance of small things. It's a million little things, hinges and latches and paint touch up and stuff like that. And making sure that we don't lose any of what has always been the lighthouse.
Yeah.
Once rust eats through something to a certain point, then you have to take away that rust, and you're just taking away history.
Wow.
The other part is we have a great construction crew that does preservation work specifically for lighthouses. The JB Leslie company out of South Berwick, and they are meticulous. In a way that even sometimes impresses me, and I'm there all the time. So, and just having people who really know what they're doing and understand the historic value of the place makes all the difference.
Nice. Wow. Well, if there were three things, let's say you could give us a tour of the lighthouse, what are the first three things you would show us?
Let's see. I would say I would definitely show you the workshop, because that's the most active part of the lighthouse currently. It's
where is it?
It's the little white building on the left side.
Okay.
Yeah, not the one down below, that's the boathouse, but up in the yard there.
Okay.
And so that's where all the tools that I use, lawnmowers and hammers and saws, all the things I do to get my job done are there. If it's if it's kind of a rainy day and there's stuff that needs to get done, it happens in that workshop. It always has power, versus most of the lighthouse we don't supply power to anymore because we don't need it, and it's safer that way. And then I think the living room is just a super cool place in the lighthouse. I mean, inside that house, it has pretty high ceilings. It's a Victoria era home, and you walk through it and you're like, this has such a comfortable feel to it.
Wow.
And then lastly, the top of the tower, like out on the deck, is just the view's unparalleled. You can see Isle of Shoals today. You will see it. You will see Cape Porpoise to the north, Mount A. You get an incredible view of Mount A from the tower. Yeah. So, and then Boone Island, it's just 6 miles away there, but the views from up in the tower are just, you can't get that anywhere else.
Interesting. And it must be an incredible feeling, or just at least, I guess, an interesting feeling being out there. And even though it's something so viewed and looked upon, so few people have been up in the tower and to get that view.
Right. Yeah, and I think as time goes on, it's less and less and less. I mean, it was part of the National Lighthouse Foundation, and then after World War II, became part of the Coast Guard. And so it was actually a base, like its own little military base, right? Like as part of the Coast Guard.
Wow.
And therefore, people were only allowed there by invitation. And so, since the town has taken over, it's just not a place that's suitable for lots of people. So if you get over there, like, you're a pretty rare company.
Wow. Great. I guess what would be his favorite historical fact about the lighthouse? Something special?
I would say that it always blows my mind that the whole thing was built for $15,000 in 1879, including the purchase of the property.
Wow.
And the other thing that's really interesting to me is that it was all built by hand. I mean, all the materials for that lighthouse had to be carried up there or brought by block and tackle. There was no construction equipment. And so, the tower itself is 2 layers of brick and cast iron sheathing on the outside. And when I think about what it must have taken to build that in the first place, those guys are way tougher than I would ever be.
That's crazy. How did they get the bricks out there?
Presumably by some kind of barge, and then ultimately probably had to carry them up in boxes up to the lighthouse.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Is there a favorite lighthouse keeper that you remember in history?
Yeah, I mean, Eugene Coleman was there the longest. He was there for 12 years, and I think his career as a lighthouse keeper spanned over 30 years. And he was there when they brought electricity to the lighthouse in 1938.
Yeah.
And like one of the coolest pictures of the lighthouse from history is him sitting, he was a tall guy sitting in the front window of the lighthouse on the outside with his cat, Mr. T, who's like the cat, he's a tall man. The cat goes like from lap to chin on him. And he's just sitting there looking out, and it's like, I don't know, I feel like it really captures like kind of that moment when you are looking out and just thinking because you're on your own, you know, and I feel like that's what he's doing there.
Have you had a special moment like that?
Gosh, I think I've had a lot of them, but they're short, you know, because I'm out there to work, and there's always stuff to do. But I really enjoy having lunch out there sometimes. Usually my lunches are like 10 minutes, but that's when you really notice like what's going on and, like really the beauty of the place. Or right at the end of a shift, usually I walk around and make sure everything is in good shape, but it's often late in the day, and that's the prettiest time of day at the Nubble, so it's nice.
Oh, that's amazing. Let's talk about that moment where you're able to take that break for a second out there, because all of us watching it, or most of us, we're always looking out at the lighthouse. We're looking out at it from whatever perspective we may be in town. But what is it like to have that moment to sit down and look at York?
It's really cool. I mean, York is a big town, and you can see all the way up to the Cliff House right here, which is the northern limit of York. You can see all the way down to the points in York Harbor, which is the southern limit. And then you can see all the way up to Mount A, which is the western limit. So even though York is geographically a really large town, like you can see pretty much the whole thing from the Nubble Lighthouse, and I think it might be the only place where you can actually do that.
That's incredible. Thank you. Thank you. Is there a piece of wisdom that you would leave for future lighthouse keepers?
This sounds so cheesy, but I would say love it or leave it. And just because it requires so much care and attention to do it right and to not miss out on the little details, that you have to love every bit of it, or else you won't be able to do the job in the way that it really needs to be done. And so I try to do my job with love. Like I pulled up here today and I saw it. I was excited, and I've been going there for 14 years. But just looking at it and seeing that it looks beautiful today, that kind of fills your heart. So
that's amazing. Well, we know that you'll be the keeper for a long time to come.
That's the plan. I'm not going anywhere.
So this lighthouse, we've talked about what it stands for right now and what it means to community, what it means to tourists, to visitors, what it means to you, what it means to me. What do you think it'll mean for people, or what do you hope it means for people 100 years from now?
Well, it will definitely be there. It is the sturdiest house in the entire town. Like, it's not going anywhere. It's kind of interesting. I mean, I guess maybe people will remember me and I'll be a part of that. But it will be, just the tradition and how important it was for a connection to the whole outside world for us to have this lighthouse.
Yeah.
Because this is really the bridge that connected us to Europe and made it possible for people to come here safely. Before this lighthouse was here, then it was a hazard, and you could come all the way from Europe and end up on the rocks just because you didn't have something to warn you off them. So, and Boone Island itself, the history of Boone Island is exactly that, like a shipwreck that crashed there, and people died, and they decided that they were going to do things differently around here because of that.
Wow. Interesting. I never thought about it as the bridge to Europe. Is there anything you could expand on that?
Well, I mean, this is one of the earliest settled places in North America. And, fishing really drove a lot of this. And commerce as well made it possible for people to be here. And the lighthouse would be the very first thing you saw if you were on a ship coming from Europe.
Wow.
And every lighthouse has its own signature, which is like a combination of flashing pattern and color. And therefore, you could be in the dark and identify like exactly where you are when you saw America for the first time. based just on looking at a single lighthouse. You'd know exactly where you are.
Wow. Now you mentioned coming out here and looking at the lighthouse, even though you've been the keeper for 14 years, you got excited. How do you think the people felt coming from Europe and seeing that blink, the special blink of the lighthouse?
Oh my gosh, they must have been so relieved, because it would not be an easy journey. It wouldn't be fast, it wouldn't be easy, and it would not be necessarily safe. And so if they had a rough go of it, I think seeing that light would be like the light of salvation, and knowing that they were headed to a place where probably they were going to be living their future.
Yeah.
Because it was in 1879, America is still being built. People are still coming here and we're still expanding.
Wow. That's incredible. I never thought about it that way. Thank you for sharing that. When visiting the lighthouse, or, most of us, we look at it from over here, from the other side. We talked about your 3 favorite things to go and look at if you were able to make it over there. But just as an insider scoop for us, what are some things that we should look at when we're at the park that maybe other people don't notice?
Things that you should look at in the park. Well, you should cover the whole park. Like, you should walk through the whole thing, because there are some things that you can only see from specific places. Like, if you get down on the rocks, be careful, they're very slippery. But on the north side, then you can look across and you can see the boathouse, which you can't see from other places in the park. And in front of it is the whale rock, which is a huge rock shaped like a whale with a whale's face painted on it. And you wouldn't see that from anywhere but pretty much where I launch my boat from down in the park. And then if you go to the south side of the park, you can look out and get a great view of Boone Island.
Yeah.
And look out to the Isles of Shoals. Like, there's so many things to see other than the Nubble Lighthouse from here as well. And keep your eyes peeled for animals. We get, seals. We're in harbor seal pup season right now, and occasionally we see whales, sharks.
Wow.
Cool stuff.
It's super cool. That's great advice for us to be able to go to the park and keep an eye out for other things and see some key features of the park and look over the whole thing. It's a beautiful spot here in York. Now let's talk about specifically you. What draws you to the community of York? Because you serve as both an English teacher here at the high school, you're the lighthouse keeper, you love Mount A. We've talked about that before. What draws you to the community here in the town?
Well, I essentially became an adult here. I'm not from York, but I started as an intern at York High School at the age of 23.
Wow.
So I was just 5 years older than my oldest students. And I was a very young person at that time. And, a lot of my personality has been shaped by the interaction I've had with the community of York, and working with the high school age teenagers in York has really informed the way that I see the world.
Wow.
And so, my relationship with the town of York goes long before I even started working at the lighthouse. Working for the Parks Department shows me a whole different side of York. And, I've worked at the lighthouse. I've pitched in a few other places too. And it just makes me feel like I have some personal ownership in this community that, has been such a big part of my life for so long.
Wow. What makes you proud of the kids going through high school right now, specifically your class?
I have to say that the thing I'm most proud of with my kids is just how nice they are. Kids get a bad rap sometimes about not being able to do this or that everybody thinks. And I think that's a generational thing. People said it about my generation. People in my generation say it about the kids now. But I think they're just much nicer than they ever have been, and considerate and accepting of other people. And that makes me really proud of them. And then what they're capable of doing. The demands that we place on kids in terms of what they should be able to do when they have graduated from high school are just more.
Yeah.
It used to be that you could write in a notebook and you could read something and you could do those basic things. And now we ask them to do so many things related to technology and just be better at more things than we ever have. And that's a lot for a kid.
Yeah, that is a lot. I know there's a lot of new ways to be able to take what you've learned from English class and apply it to your life with social media, technology, podcasting, interviews, and then also writing, which is still a beautiful feature that we have. I think there's a incredible way to be able to have something that's print and then also have something tail behind it that's electronic via video and other realms. Why English? We can obviously see you're very well spoken, but why are you an English teacher?
You know, when I was in high school, English and history were like the only two classes I actually enjoyed. And then I went to college. I went to UNH in Durham, and I went there as a journalism major, and after a couple classes just switched to straight English just because I like to read so much. And so when I became an English major, my entire course curriculum was mostly reading.
Wow.
Just reading and writing. And so, you know, I always had roommates that were engineers, and they'd be like, don't you ever do anything? And I'd be sitting like on a couch reading a book, and I'd be like, I'm doing my work right now. But, you know, I was enjoying it so much, it just looked like I was just having a nice time. But,
Yeah, nice. So, a real insider scoop now.
okay.
This is the question we're all wondering. What is your favorite food in York? It can be different places. If you're going to spend your day eating here in town, where would you go? What does the lighthouse keeper order?
That's kind of a tough question for me because there's very few foods that I do not love.
Okay. We've already talked about empanadas before, I know that.
Yeah. I would say this is fair. My absolute favorite restaurant in town is Lorena's. Lorena's empanadas, like the shrimp empanadas are so good. And like a couple of my kids work there, and it's always fun to go in and see them. So yeah, if I'm going to go anywhere in town, it's going to be Lorena's.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How about grabbing a coffee, a breakfast sandwich? Where would you?
You know, I go to Anthony's pretty regularly. I like their coffee. I think it's good. They make it on site, and their breakfast sandwiches are fast and good. You know, so again, I see people I know there all the time.
Yeah.
And it always makes me smile to see like former students. You know, and if they want to talk to you, that's a huge deal in the life of a teacher. And so I like to go to places where like people are excited to see me. You know,
Nice.
rather than, you know, the food's good too, but
Yeah. Nice. So if you're going to bring the lighthouse keeper out to dinner, where would you want to go?
you know, my wife and I, we actually stayed here at the ViewPoint not so long ago, back in January or February, and we had dinner at Lulu's
Oh, nice.
on the beach and at the Nevada, and it was phenomenal. It was so good. Like the drinks are excellent. The food is like, you know, Polynesian / Tex-Mex, and like I was so impressed by it. So I'm going to be going back to Lulu's. When people come to town, I'll probably take them there to go Lulu's.
Yeah. I love Stone's Throw.
Yeah.
I love both of them. But sometimes it's just like, do I want a really good burger? I'll go to Stone's Throw, or do I want something else? Go to Lulu's.
Yeah, both good choices.
Even their drinks are incredible.
Yeah, their craft cocktails are so good.
Yeah. And this is completely paid for. We don't get sponsored by anybody. So this is just completely genuine response to the town of York. And it just so happens that we're at the ViewPoint and they own those restaurants. But
I just like to eat.
I'd say we have some of the favorites. I also love Walker's. I go there quite a bit.
Yes. Yeah, Walker's is great.
Yeah. Do you have any music that you like to listen to while you're out in the lighthouse?
You know, I know it's so corny because I'm, you know, middle-aged, and but I really love reggae.
You love reggae. Oh,
So, and I think it's great when I'm working out there. Like if I'm going to mow the lawn for 6 hours, you know, it seems like it goes by like that when you're listening to reggae, and it's also like just upbeat, you know. And so I listen to a lot of reggae on the island. It makes the day go right by.
awesome. Any specific reggae?
Caribbean reggae, like what? I like all reggae. So I like classic reggae.
Yeah.
I also like modern reggae, like Protégé. I like American reggae. I mean, there's really no limit to it. It's just the beat, the sound. You know, it just kind of lifts your spirit throughout the whole day, which I love.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us and getting to know you. I have one final question for you. How does the spirit of Maine, its people, stories, and then coastal life come alive here at the Nubble Lighthouse?
Well, you know, I think if you come to Maine, you've never been here before, what you'll find is that people are pretty down to earth. and pretty genuine. Like, it might even surprise you. Sometimes I think Mainers get like a reputation of being a little bit like standoffish, but I think that only lasts for a moment, and then they're really some of the kindest people. And like living here now, it's not so hard, but it's still not an easy place to live because you deal with the elements in all the seasons. Like you have to be pretty hardy. And so I feel like the people that decide to make this place their home they're what make this place so special. And, I always tell my kids who grew up in this area, like, you live in paradise, but you just don't know it yet. Because until you go out in the world, you don't realize that there are very few places that are just like this. It's such a special place.
Wow. Thank you. Very well said.
Thanks.
Really appreciate talking with you and learning more about you, and being able to be an edition in the York magazine for this, York Curated for this spring. Let me start over. We're very grateful for you to be an edition in the York Curated magazine and taking the time with us. I know you're extremely busy and it's almost mowing season over there.
It is.
So I guess, how can we support the lighthouse and the work that you do?
One of the really unique things about this particular lighthouse compared to a lot of the other ones in the area is that we have a fundraising vehicle here that can take care of our lighthouse, but it does require that people go there. We have a great gift shop over here that is staffed by paid employees and actually a pretty significant volunteer organization. And that funds everything at the lighthouse. We also offer twice a year a raffle for a picnic at the lighthouse for 6 people. And that's a fundraiser that helps us pay for the things that we're doing out there. And you can buy tickets from the gift shop. We sell 1,000 tickets to draw a name, so they're not terrible odds, and you just might get out there, which is kind of cool.
That is super cool, and that's a good way to be able to support it, because all the money would go to the lighthouse and taking care of this historical landmark and such an important piece of the Maine coast.
Yeah, everything that's raised here stays here. So
nice. Well, thank you. And we spoke to you today, but there's a very large team that takes care of the lighthouse and the park. Is there anybody that you'd like to mention?
Well, the Parks Department itself and the people who work there are super supportive of me, even though I work by myself mostly. When I need help, they're always there. The gift shop staff is incredible, and they're so warm and welcoming to people that it really does kind of set the tone for people's time here. And then I do love our volunteers. They're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. We have more than 30 of them, I believe, and they're in the park or in the gift shop. And, the fact that they love the place so much that they're willing to just give their time to it, I think really suits the spirit of what it takes to keep a place like this special.
Wow. Well, thank you. And from all of us, thank you for your work and for the entire Parks Department here in York. Thank you so much for viewing the York Curated Spotlight today. And Matt, if people would like to follow you on Instagram or just see what you're doing over there in the lighthouse, what can they do?
On Instagram, I'm at Nubble Lightkeeper. And I post a lot of stuff that people will always ask me about. So like you can see stuff from the inside of the lighthouse there if you want to see what it looks like inside. Nubble Lighthouse itself, through the Parks Department, has a Facebook page where you can also see a lot of that content.
Incredible. Thank you. So all of us, it's tagged under the screen right here. It's up there. So look it up on social media and give Matt a follow. But we want to thank you again so much for coming out here today. And if you want to see more interviews like this, follow me on Instagram or follow my YouTube, or pick up a York Curated at most of the coffee shops here in town or delivered to your door. Thank you so much, and have a good day.